but now I am proud to say I read alien romance for the dick.
Yes.
And welcome back to another episode of Romancing the Monsters. I'm Em.
Hi, I'm S.
I'm Seth.
So we've been struggling to find a book. We have like a cursed spot in our schedule that we just can't seem to fill because every time you read a book for that spot, it just doesn't turn out well.
No.
So we needed to come up with something to fill this goddamn spot. So today we thought we would have just a casual conversation, and by casual I mean extremely casual because we are thoroughly unprepared. So expect the chaos.
I asked if I needed to prep notes for this, and we're like, nope.
Of course not. Why would you prepare notes for this?
I mean,
So yeah, you might want to expect this to get chaotic a little bit, but the subject of today's conversation shall be how/where we find book recommendations, because obviously if you are a listener of ours, we have our catch up and chill episodes, which are a great place to go if you're looking for book recommendations. We always have a variety of genres. We have TV shows and movies in there as well. So if you're looking for something to read, definitely check those out. But of course, it can't stop with just our great podcast and our great recommendations, unfortunately. So we thought we would share where we find the books we read.
all right. That was like crickets.
Silence. Okay.
So Marge, okay, let's start with you because, and even us, you both were like really big bookstagrammers like back in the day. Like you still are really popular and like, you know, you're still there, like you're still posting.
Good old days.
But like how do you guys find your recommendations?
Okay, so for me, well, obviously it started out with Goodreads.
Yeah.
And like I used to love Goodreads lists. Like they were the best place to go at the time when you had like a very precise thing you were looking for. Mm-hmm. Like possessive alphas in romance. You type that in Goodreads and it's like there's 8 lists of possessive alphas in romance. Or you want a nurse romance. Type that, they're all there. So that originally was where I was going for book recs, which is still a good place to go. I do think that people are still adding to those lists. Maybe?
Yeah, they are. I think they are.
Okay. And then obviously it turned into when I joined the Bookstagram community, then it was like Bookstagram was a huge place to go for that. And one of my tips and tricks, I would say, to get more book recs is like make sure you change the people that you're following every couple months, because you get new takes, new people that read different kinds of books. Like I like to sometimes clear out the people that I'm following because it just feels like I'm always getting the same 8 authors on my feed. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you unfollow a couple people, obviously not your friends or else you're going to cause drama, which you don't want to.
Have you unfollowed me before?
No, I would never.
She's unfollowed me.
She says that she follows again.
As she like mutes me quite often on Twitter. Yeah.
Oh, I did that once. Calm down.
It felt like all the time.
Anyways, so you do that. You change the people that you're following, and you will see that on your feed you're seeing new books to read, and find the people that recommend books that you do not see often. That's another great way to find book recs.
That's interesting. I never thought about doing something like that.
Yeah, I have more places, but I will let us talk on the matter, and I will come back.
S, what about you? You popular bookstagrammer, you?
No, not anymore.
Because you find weird books, so this is...
So for me, it started off, like for me for reading, I started off reading the 50 Shades books, and that's because I started hearing about it.
Online, I guess?
Yes, and then because where I used to work at a restaurant, and like a lot of like the older ladies would come in with a book, and I would ask them like, what is it that you're reading? And I remember this one woman, like she told me a little bit about it, and I went straight to Target. I was like, I'm curious. I want to know what this book is about.
What book was it?
The 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I went to Target, I bought the first book, and I devoured it. And I think for the book 2 and 3, it was sold out everywhere. I remember going to like 3 different Targets to look for it. To look for the last 2.
That was crazy.
So from there, I started on Facebook looking for authors, and then it started off on Facebook, and then it moved to Instagram, and that's when I discovered the whole book community, and then I discovered Goodreads. So now where I find my recs would be Facebook groups, and that's where I find all like the weird books that I'm always adding to my TBR. I follow like a jealous possessive type of alpha group.
Can you send that to me?
Yeah.
I will. And then there's a jealous possessive one, and then there's a dark romance one as well.
Ooh.
Ooh. Yeah, I think I'm in one too.
Yes.
It might be the same.
I want to join a dark romance.
I'll send you the links.
Well, I mean, we can share a couple groups that are like really good.
Yeah.
So, first off, if you like monster dicks.
We all do.
I love this group.
There's a group called Monsters, Demons, and Nodding. Oh my! Exclamation point. And that group is amazing. I've never enjoyed being a part of a Facebook group more than this one. It's just positivity. And it's like, you can post anything. There's no shame.
No, and I love that they don't feel shame or like shame you for asking for,
someone can be like, I want a big green scaly dick, and everyone's like, yeah girl, I got you covered.
Yeah. Or like, I want tentacle porn. Got you covered.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's such a great group.
That's the attitude you want in a group.
Yeah.
So that's a great one. There's also one I love, which is called...
We'll also mention these in the description of the episode.
Yeah. There's one called, and it's kind of on brand for what you just talked about, it's called 50 Shades of Fae, Fae.
Oh.
And that one, I mean, it has nothing to do with 50 Shades. But it's essentially a group where if you're a fantasy romance lover, that's a great group because there's tons of recs in there, and it's like mostly kind of the unknown fantasy romance books. So like all of the self-published ones that you probably have not heard of if you're not like following those kinds of groups. Okay. So that one is great.
I have the jealous/possessive hero book group. There's that one, and then there's the...
Oh, it's Romance After Dark Readers group. Is that the one, the dark romance one that you were talking about?
This one is a deliciously dark and taboo romance book group.
Oh, okay. So it's not the same. I'm following Romance After Dark. That one's good too. And if you are into historical romance specifically, but any kind of romance really, you can always, ask for book recs in that group. It's a group that was started by Sarah McLean, the author, for old romance, but now it's kind of turned into like all kinds of romance. OSRBC, Read More Romance. That's a good group. Like if you're like, oh, what's that book? Or I need that trope. Write it in the group and you will get tons of recs. And you can always specify if you're looking for historical romance or just any kind of romance, because there's all kinds of readers in that group. It's kind of there.
That's so cool.
It's a huge group though, so bear that in mind. Those groups, like if the groups get too big, it kind of gets overwhelming, I find.
I agree. I love that Sarah McLean is so involved in the reader community. Like, it's so great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's a reader herself.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's on her. Well, that's actually another good source of recs. Like, I think if you go on her website, she has like 1,000 recs on there with like all kinds of tropes, and like she lists the tropes, I think. So
Wow.
you could go on there as well. That's a great place to go. But Facebook groups, it's where it's at.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
Yeah. Are you guys in the help name that book group? No. So I love it because someone will post like, oh, I can't remember the book, but like they'll post like little things that they do remember about it. And they'll have people like going everywhere searching just based off of the little description.
Oh my gosh.
Or they'll post like similar books to that description.
Yeah.
So I love that one too because I found a lot of good recs on there as well.
Huh.
But it's also funny because people get so specific sometimes.
Yeah.
And then it's just entertaining because it's like, I'm looking for a book. Like, I want a book where the girl sings Under the Moon, and then as she's crossing a field of flowers, she finds her mate, and the mate is like a crocodile, halfling, whatever, fae from another dimension. And it's like, it just keeps on going like that. And you're like, and the best thing about that is even the, like, super extremely precise ones, you will always find people in the comments being like, yep, that one.
Yeah.
It's the best
It's so great.
Everything exists.
Everything, for sure.
So what about you, Steph?
Okay,
Where do you find your
For
recs?
me, so I started off, I read Harry Potter when it was coming out as a kid, and then I stopped reading for a long time until, like, I discovered Twilight. And that kind of started the, like, you know, getting the ball rolling. And so from there, I ended up just getting a library card and just borrowing books, like, whenever I saw, like, a book that I wanted to read, and that would just be, like, based on the cover. Like, I'm such a, like, a bad person. I judge a lot of books by its cover, and
That's
so I
not
would,
being
like,
bad. That's being human.
okay,
Marketing.
all right. So, like, in the library, I would just, like, pick up books that I thought looked pretty or, like, the description matched what I wanted. And I also, so the library also has, like, a section on their online website where you could, like, look at the books that are coming in, like, the new books. So I found a lot of my reads at the beginning looking at, like, their books that are coming in, and I would just, like, request them and then, you know, go pick them up. I didn't discover Goodreads until, like, I think I started high school. Yeah. And then since then, I just, like, was on Goodreads forever and ever and ever. And then I met you girls. And then,
Hey.
and then, like, just, like, I don't know, I got book recs from, like, you guys, people in the book community, and then that's just where it happened. And now on Bookstagram, I'm just, like, looking at all these pretty covers, adding them to my list, and I'm only now joining Facebook groups for books. And I just feel like, why haven't I not been doing that earlier? Because I feel like I've gotten so many recs, or, like, people talk about books that really interest me, and I wish I joined these groups earlier, but I'm here now, so that's good.
But that's another, like, really important point. It's like word of mouth is such a huge way of getting recs as well, because if you get involved in the community, in the book community, you will inevitably find people that are very like-minded in what they like and what they don't like.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's your friends, and sometimes it's literally someone you've never spoken to, but you're like, I really like your content. Like, I always end up liking what you're reading type of thing.
Yeah.
So you will find those people, and then that's also a great way to find books. It's like, they will read something, and you'll go, huh, and then you'll read it, and you're like, yeah, I like it too. So find your people.
Yeah.
Is a huge
So
thing.
I want to add to that, to what you said.
Okay.
The author Cate Roberts.
Yeah.
So her level of, like, spice or, like, crazy type of reads that she likes, I found out that that's what I like. So on TikTok, she's always posting her recommendations.
Yes.
And I'm always adding them, and I'm just like, yes, like, she always comes through when it comes to, like,
Yeah,
certain...
I've gotten so many recs by her, like, from her,
Yeah.
sorry, on her
Yeah.
TikToks.
So definitely, like March says, find your people, because...
That's kind of a question, though. It's like, because author recs, I feel, opens, like, a whole new can of worms. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's like, do you... And this is... Okay, this is a question we could actually discuss. Are you... When an author recommends a book, are you tempted to read it or not? Because it's an author.
For me, it depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the author for me. Because there's some authors where, like, I actually consider some of, like, they're my friends or, like, my book friends. Whereas, like, if it's an author I'm following because I like their books and I don't really have a relationship with them going, then maybe I take a step back and, like, look at the book itself and, like, look at, just look at it in general. But it depends on the author. So if it's a friend, I tend to like the same books as them, so I would go and read them or, like, add them to my TBR. What about you, S? So you said it depends. Is it the same thing?
It depends on the author. And I feel like there's a lot of just recommending because the authors are friends.
Yeah.
And not really because they read the book.
Thing, yeah.
So there are only certain authors where I'm like Katie Roberts, like, for her recs, I don't think she's the type to, like, recommend, like, friends' books, I guess you can say. I don't know. But she's one of the authors that I would trust to try something new, to try a certain book or a certain author.
What about you,
I think, well, it definitely depends for me as well, but I think it doesn't necessarily depend on the author for me. I think it depends on the platform where it's happening.
Oh.
I feel like if it's on Twitter, I'm more likely to think that they're being, like, they're recommending something because they truly like it. Because I feel like, and maybe this is me being naive, but I feel like there's not as much selling of products on Twitter. Like, authors, it feels to me like they're more on Twitter for an open conversation than they are there to promote their own books. It's kind of like a diary. Like, here's my writing process, and here's the thought that I had about the romance community, and here's that book that I read that I really liked. Whereas if it's on Instagram or Facebook, I do feel like oftentimes it's more so promo of, here's my friend's book that just released, I really liked it, type of thing. And then I'm not really likely to think, oh yeah, I'm gonna read that, because I don't know, I feel like I'm being sold a product more than just being told, like, hey, this book is really good from a fellow bookworm, because it's like authors are fellow bookworms too, but they also, try to market books. That's what it is for me. It's like, it depends where it's happening and what is attached to what they're saying, and, like, but say, like, a blurb, you know how sometimes authors blurb books? So, like, it's like, oh, a fascinating journey. Yeah. Eloisa James.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
On the book cover. Like, that has never worked on me. Like, I don't get why it's there. I don't understand it. I'm just like, is it just to fill a space on the cover because it looked a little empty? Like, I don't get it.
No, so for you, you were talking about, like, how Facebook, you don't really take your recs from authors, but, like, does that mean, like, on their own personal page or, like, their reader groups, or, like, do you take them both as the same thing?
A thing that happens a lot in the self-publishing industry is, like, you'll have those Facebook posts by authors where it's like they literally have the graphic, they have the pre-written text from the author, and they're literally just posting that on their page, and it's like, that has never worked on me. And they'll, like, add one sentence where it's like, I really love this book, go and get it. It's like, I don't care. Like, I don't trust your opinion that much.
Yeah.
Like, I can see that that's just you promoting someone else's book so that they will promote you in return, which is fine. That's totally fine. But it's just not going to make me want to buy the book. Yeah. But one thing that actually kind of does work on me, it's when, I don't know, like, you've probably seen it before, where it's like the authors will be like, oh, happy release day, and then they share the link to the author's book without saying, like, oh, I read it and I loved it, type of thing. Just sharing the link and being like, happy release day. And I find that I'm tempted to look those up, usually when it's Ruby Dixon, because I just know that Ruby Dixon will share me some good monster dick. So I'm like, okay, Ruby, I hear you.
See, that's me and Tiffany Roberts. So when they share like, the new releases, and, like, they have a whole, like, list of books of alien romance, like, I know they like their alien smut too, so I'm like, all right, I trust your recommendations. I go read the synopsis, add them to my TBR, and we're good. Like, I like when they have, like, a list of books too that just have a link and you just click them.
Yeah. So what would be one book that got recommended to you and you were like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing I've ever read? Do you have one?
I mean, if we're being honest here, Marge, I feel like our friendship really solidified. I'm kidding. No, but like we ended up like fangirling together about Akatar. Like I was like, I'm like, I'm not reading YA. I'm just like, I'm past that stage in my life.
Wait, did I make you read
I was
that?
so snobbish at that point. Yeah, you did. And then you showed me the art. You're like, this is not going to be a YA. Look at this. And then so you spoiled Reese and Feyre for me, but I was like, I don't care. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to read this. So I ended up reading that series because of you.
I don't even remember that. I'm so sorry. You're like, it was such a huge moment in their friendship, and I'm like, I don't remember.
Another way that I choose books is fan art. So if I see a beautiful fan art, I'm weak.
Oh my God.
I'm weak for fan art. So I click it,
It's
look
my
at
downfall.
it, and then I start shipping without even knowing their names.
Yep, I cannot stress this enough. If you are an author, specifically fantasy author, but truly any genre,
Yeah.
I cannot stress this enough that if you get fan art commissioned or art commissioned for your books, you will get more sales. Like, I cannot stress that enough. Like, I see fan art and immediately I'm like, I gotta get this. I don't care about the blurb.
Yeah.
I don't care about the title. I don't care what it's about, who it's about. I'm like, yep, that just sold me. Just the art. That's all it takes. So honestly, if you're worried or you're like, I don't know if this is gonna work, if it's worth it, blah, 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 it is worth it. It is worth it. Because even if I don't read the book, I'm likely to just share it to my Instagram page, which I got some followers,
Yeah,
you know?
it
And
easily
even if I had
reaches.
like 300 followers, well, then I'm sharing it with 300 followers, even if I'm not reading it.
Exactly. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Oh, fan art has made me read so many books. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But also, doesn't it kind of suck that sometimes the fan art is it's
Better
than the
than
book.
the story.
than the book than the story, like, or like they make up like their scenes a little bit more in a way.
I mean, it still gets me invested. It still gets me to read a book. It's still a sale for them.
Exactly. Like, you bought the book. They got
Yeah.
what they wanted. And if you didn't like the story, then whatever. But one book I will always remember. One book I found really randomly on Twitter. I don't even know how I ended up on that person's tweet, which is not even someone I know, never someone I have even spoken to. It's literally a random Twitter user that I don't even remember the name of. But the person was recommending Love Me Whole by Nicky James.
Mm-hmm.
And that random ass tweet got me like, I maybe should try that. And then I read that book and I fucking loved it. And I mean, here I am loving Nicky James now. I love her books. We have an episode coming. No, actually it should be out.
It already should be out.
By the time, yeah. So go and listen to that. Steph and I read Shades of Darkness. Shades of Darkness. And we really enjoyed it. But yeah, like that's how I found that author. And now she's like an auto-buy author for me. I love her stuff. And it was this random ass tweet on Twitter that I found like a Wednesday night at 11 p.m. Like, so anywhere you can find really good recommendations.
I agree with that. What is one book that you remember being recommended to you or you found somewhere? There's too many, right? Like I only chose Akatar because like I just remember it vividly.
I'll say maybe like recently, Run Posy Run. That was recommended by by Cate Roberts,
which you mentioned in
our
last catch up and show.
Yeah, so that's she posted like a little description about it on TikTok. And I'm just like, this actually sounds good. So I added it to my TBR, and then I think she made like another video about it, kind of doing like a little rundown of what it was about. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start it. Like, this seems like something that I would love.
I feel like TikTok is kind of a new place to find book racks. Like, I'm not on TikTok, but I'm curious to see, how do you guys feel about how TikTok works as far as recommendations? Like, is it a good place to find racks? Is it kind of all the same thing? I don't know. I'm curious to know.
I would say sometimes. Because usually they recommend the same types of books, the same authors, and it gets repetitive. But there are moments where I've, for example, the book In Love and War by Kyra Parsi.
Yeah.
I found that on TikTok. Someone posted their monthly, I think it was like a monthly read, or the books that she has read up until that moment. She did. It was kind of like I don't know if you've seen those videos, Seth, where they'll post the book covers, but like quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched the video and like the covers were going quick, and I noticed one that caught my eye, which was that one. So I went back and watched it and I paused it and I was like, let me look up this author.
Mm-hmm.
And I read the blurb. I was like, okay, this sounds really good. And I read it and I ended up loving it. There are TikToks as well that do kind of like they talk, so they're making a video of themselves as if they're in the book. Like,
Okay, see, I was just going to say this. These ones always get me.
Yes, also, like the Ice Planet Barbarians.
Yeah, like it'd be like, so I crash landed on a planet. Can you believe that? And like, oh my gosh, I saw like this hot alien. Like, it's just like intense stories. Or if it's like a contemporary book, like they'd be like, so my husband cheated on me with my sister and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, wait, what? And then they're like, you find out it's a book.
Yeah, you think it's like they're about to spill the tea. You're just like, what happened? Like, you fall for it. You're like, oh my God, like this is it. But then it ends up being a book that they're talking about. Yeah. So that's,
I love those
always
videos.
find
That's creative.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, because I do feel like just from Twitter sometimes, like I feel like people get on TikTok's case about like what books people are recommending, which I can see how it is frustrating from someone who like has been in the community for a very long time and like has seen books or has known about certain books for a very long time, and it's like they're now discovering it and they're acting like they are the firsts. Which, like, whatever. Katie Robert, actually, I mean, she's coming up a lot in this this episode, but she actually wrote, like, it's kind of, at the end of the day, like, they are discovering a book for the first time, and for them, it is the first time, so, like, you know, they're allowed their excitement and like to be happy to discover this one series even though everyone already knew about it, but it's like, let them have their fun, I guess, you know, like as long as people are not talking about the books in like a derogatory way or shaming the books, I don't care.
You do see a lot of that though on TikTok.
Yeah.
And it does suck because, or they'll like put down readers as well they put down readers for what they like, and I don't think that's fair. Like,
yeah, like I think a big one right now, as we all know, is Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. And like at first it was all like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm reading this book. Like this is just like, I'm not gonna tell anyone. And just like that feeling, like I know we discovered these books way back when. Like I don't like when they released, we kind of like discovered them. But like I don't know, I just feel like the readers now on TikTok, not all of them, but some of them like have like this sort of like shame, I guess, associated with reading an alien romance, because I feel like they've never probably ventured into that subgenre before. And yeah, it's just like it doesn't make me as excited, you know. Like if I see that and I'm like a prospective reader and I see that video, I'm like, maybe I don't really want to read it. So I don't know, like I think it's doing well in terms of like giving Ruby Dixon a lot more readers, but I don't know, just the negative connotation some of them have with like feeling shame with reading alien romance. There's nothing wrong with reading alien romance, just read it, enjoy it, feel no shame.
Yeah, well, it's why that nodding group is so fun, because it's like everyone exists in that group and can like ask for just about anything under the sun, and everyone's like, yeah girl, you get it. You know, so it's refreshing. But you know, that's not, it's like, saying it about TikTok is one thing, but like it's actually a thing that's kind of present everywhere, including Twitter. Like that attitude of like, I'm tired of romance novels having naked men on the cover because, like, I'm so ashamed, and then my parents are going to see it and they're going to know that I'm reading about sex. And it's like, just fucking read the book. Like, why are you what's the point, or what are you trying to achieve by shaming books because they have naked men on the cover when we've been fighting for decades to get those books the respect that they deserve? You know, it's like, we love those covers, and this genre, it is not ashamed of itself. It's proud of itself.
Yeah.
So can we not get those takes of like, no more men in the cover because I can't read it? It's like, well, don't fucking read it.
Okay,
I don't
so
care.
You brought up the, like, you know, they feel like they can't read it because, like, they don't want their parents to know. I just feel like there's a lot of cultures out there that, like, if they saw their kids reading, or not their kids, but, like, their teenagers or young adults reading those books, they're just not, like, it's just not okay, you know, to read those. So, like, I understand
read
that
it on your phone, read it on your Kindle. It doesn't have to be a physical copy.
That's true. That is true. Never mind. I was just saying, like, I know when I was, like, in high school, I just didn't want my parents to know I was reading smut. So.
Well, now they know you're reading about spider smut, and they're proud of you still, Seth. So everything's fine. You turned out just fine.
Exactly. So, yeah, no, I agree. I just feel like you said, we've come such a long way, and, like, we've tried to shed that shame a lot of people feel reading romance, and, like, people saying it's not a real genre, like, it's not even a real book, so why are you reading it? And I just feel like, yeah, we've come a long way from there, and be proud of what you're reading. Just be proud. Just love it. Speaking of reading romance, Marge, I wanted to ask you, how did you come across...
Hold on. You have all these questions prepared, and I'm like, you said you weren't prepared. Where are these questions coming from?
I'm not prepared. I just had a question as you were talking.
Low-key prepared. She was low-key
She
prepared.
was, like, in bed last night, like, trying to come up with all the questions.
Oh, Lord. Anyways, so my question is, how did you learn about and decide to read about MPreg, which is male pregnancy, which is famous in the Omegaverse?
Give us a day, the time. Where were you at?
The sad thing is, I don't even remember how I found MPreg in the first place.
What?
I don't remember how.
It was Facebook, wasn't it?
It probably was Facebook, and it probably was
or Twitter.
Through a MM author. Like, it was probably maybe in the MM group or an author's group that writes MM or something. Like I honestly don't remember how I ended up in the MPreg world, and that's a very sad thing for me, because it's like, it's the love of my life.
Life-changing.
Yeah.
It was life altering. So, like, it's sad that I don't remember, but I don't remember.
No, because, like, it gave us the gem of Slow Heat by Leta Blake, which is, you know, we have an episode on that quite early on. And to think, if you never discovered MPreg, none of us would have read that book.
I know.
So
I'm in a couple Facebook groups for MPreg now, and sadly I have to report that it has not been fruitful for me so far. I feel like I'll ask for something like with angst, you know, because that's difficult. Finding good MPreg that is MPreg and has all the lovely things about MPreg, which is like the heat. You want the heat, you want the nodding. If it doesn't have that, then it's a disgrace. But I want angst. Like, can I have a good story? Because that was what was magical about Slow Heat. It was like, it gave you everything you could have wanted. The heat, the nodding, the MPreg aspect of it, but also like the angst and the story and the world building and the emotions, and like, it was all there. So I'm like, why is it so difficult to find those? And unfortunately, those groups have not helped me find more of those.
That's unfortunate. I just feel like Omegaverse, like, there are some gems in terms of like good story, good world building, good angst, but I feel like a lot of it is just like, not fetishizing, but like over
dig.
You have to dig, but I feel like a lot of it is just smut, like over what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Not fetishizing. It's over sensualizing, over sexualizing. I don't know. I just feel like there's just a lot of smut and not much story, and I think it just comes with like some fascination.
Well, that's true for like Omegaverse in general. Like,
yeah, that's what I said.
Not
Omegaverse
limited to because like, it's not just MPreg. A lot of it is just like yeah, let's just have constant sex, which is like fine, you know. Sometimes you
Smart.
want that, but
some of us want a little bit of story too. Oh, and then okay, fine. I have another question. This one for S.
She was prepared.
I didn't. I'm just thinking of
convinced me
questions.
she wasn't prepared.
Stop it. Okay.
Fine. What's your question?
So, okay. It's kind of like I have 2 questions. This sounds so weird, but anyways, my first question is, you were like one of the first friends that I know of that got into alien romance. So, like, how did you get into that?
I'm curious. I'm a curious reader. So if I see something that's kind of not the usual type of reads that people go for, I'm just like, you know what? Let me give it a try. I download a sample and I give it a try.
I love that you do that. And you've kind of taught me how to do that too.
Yeah.
Whenever I find a really weird book on Goodreads, I'm like, not for me, but I'll share it for S. Because I just know that S is going to go, oh, heck yeah.
Or she'd be like, it's already on my list.
Yeah. So I'll mostly give everything a try. I'll download my samples.
Including Chuck Tingle's.
I read a Chuck Tingle book and I love Chuck Tingle. He's actually a really good freaking writer.
Really?
I know. His writing's a little weird, like his stories, but he's a good writer.
It's satire.
Yeah.
Do you
he's a really good writer.
Chuck Tingle is a pseudonym? Maybe they have another name and they're a popular author and we just don't know.
Ooh.
Maybe.
I feel like that could be a thing for sure.
I've yet to read a Chuck Tingle story, but I promise I will do that once in my life.
Oh, you promise?
Yeah.
You promise you will do that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Your words are on paper right here. Signed, Sephra.
All right, signed,
We'll read
Sephra.
a Chuck Tingle book.
Oh my gosh, look how they spell my name. Great. Safra. There you go. Anyways, yeah, and then I forgot my second question.
Well, she didn't even answer, though.
Yeah, she did. No, you didn't.
No. Well,
how did you find them
first?
to begin with? Do you remember what your first
Yeah.
alien romance was?
Maybe the Blue...
Was it Ice Planet Barbarians?
I think it was Blue Aliens, yeah.
Oh.
I think that was that opened a freaking door of like, what else is out there? I must try everything. It
wasn't even a door, it was a gate. It's like it pushed open the gates of heaven.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the world of alien romance was discovered and it was life altering.
I vividly remember me saying, I'll never read it. I'll never read those
Girl.
books.
Yeah, I remember that. And she's the one that finished the series first before any of us.
I know, Mart finished it.
I was so against it. So our friend Gabby and S both read the Blue Aliens first, and they were like, yep, this is great, you should read it, Marge. And I was like, nope, y'all are insane. Blue Aliens, never in a million years. Y'all are crazy, not doing it. Nope, not happening. I even have a literal Facebook post that comes up in my memories every year.
I love your southern accent when it comes out.
It's me saying my friends are insane for reading about the Blue Aliens and they're trying to force me to do it too, and I won't. I literally have a post saying that. And then, the rest is history.
But I felt like that kind of opened up I feel like that opened up a gate for you as well, because you discovered Prague and you tried other types of reads and
Oh yeah. Everything comes back to that, because it's like it was the first time that I was trying out something that was truly weird.
Mm-hmm.
And once you try that, you're like, okay, well, I've done the Blue Aliens, so like, what's males getting pregnant now?
Okay, well, that's a big jump.
Well, that's how it happened. It was just like, well, if I did this weird thing, then maybe I'll like this weird thing.
Yeah. And
And
that's how it
turns
goes.
out more often than not, I like the weird things.
Was that a pun? You said more often than not, and you were talking about Empreg.
Oh, I love that Seth always catches a pun. She's ready.
She catches all the puns that I'm not like, I don't, it's not intended, but I'm glad you catch them, so then I can sound like I'm really funny and really punny when I'm clearly not. So, not.
You are. Yeah, I remember I did not add those to my my list on Goodreads when I was reading them. I just was like, yep, nope. I love when we talk about like not feeling shame to read these books, but like keep in mind I was like I think in high school or like starting university, and like that I feel like when that's when I think alien romance kind of became more mainstream, and like the shame was still kind of there. But now I am proud to say I read alien romance for the dick.
Yes.
I'm kidding. I read it for the romance. There's so many good romances there.
Oh yeah, but also, you know, big.
Dick. Dick.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I mean, you see, okay, I'll expose myself.
Okay.
I'm here preaching like, don't be ashamed, blah 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 blah. I stand by that.
Yeah.
But do as I say, not as I do. Because I will admit that like I have this thing where when I add a book on Goodreads, it like automatically sends a tweet on my Twitter feed.
Yeah.
But only for the first book that I add. So if I'm adding a bunch of them, which you might think might never happen, but the truth is it happens every day.
You add like 20 books
I just
a
go on
day.
adding sprees. Yeah, I just go on adding sprees. So I have a strategy because I'm like, the first book will show up on my Twitter feed, but the rest won't. So usually I always begin with the book that I'm like, I don't mind this being on my Twitter feed.
Oh, God.
But then after that, I'll add the really weird ones.
That's crazy though.
So, I mean, they're on my Goodreads. Like, if you want to, know about them, just go on Goodreads. I'm Foes and Lovers. Don't know how you can find me on there. How do you find people
there
on
is a
Goodreads?
search.
Like, how did...
Friends.
Okay, so there's a search for Foes and Lovers, and then go through my TBR, and you'll see all the weird books. They're all there. Waiting
I
for you.
sometimes go through your list and yours too, just to look
Do
for
you?
a book. Just like any book that is not my usual, that I want a palate cleanser, yeah. I mean, like, I'm the total opposite, and I even told my mom I was reading Spider Smut, so no shame here.
Yeah, and I said in the episode on that one, I was like, that's the one book that I probably wouldn't tell people that I was reading.
Yeah, I know, same. But you know what? It was a great romance.
Not because
it was
it's
a great
shameful.
story.
It's just weird. Like, how do you explain that? Like, how do you explain, yeah, he's a spider, and then, like, he has a slit, and then it opens, and then there's a stem, and he has claspers, and and he's a little kinky, and, like, how do you explain all that
I will say,
someone?
though, since I got into, like, the book universe, my mom's reading has also been more, differentiated. Yeah. Yeah. And, she even joined Bookstagram, not like posting anything, but she follows authors. She follows authors, and I think she follows like some like blogs or whatever. And like my mom has like found books that she also enjoys. So I feel like the world, like social media as a whole, I think has been like good in terms of like book recommendations and like also connecting people with people that, share the same interests, like we've already talked about.
Okay, so bottom line, if you're looking for recommendations that are not the same 5 that you constantly see, find friends, find a community to join, find the right Facebook groups, and don't be shy to ask in those groups, like, I'm looking for this or this or that. Recycle the people that you have on your Instagram feed or your Twitter feed every couple months. Change it, because it will give you a whole new perspective of like what's out there. Find the weird people. Like, find the people. There's always that one person that just reads really weird books, and for us it's us. But find your people. Find like that one person that reads weird books and constantly recommends those, and you'll have tons of new books to read.
Yeah.
Go on Twitter, follow authors on Twitter. What else am I forgetting? TikTok sometimes is a great place. I'm trying to recap everything, but I feel like I've covered.
I think you've covered majority of it. And just like also don't feel shame or ashamed for reading certain books or like talking about certain books, because like that negativity just like doesn't bode well in terms of like other books and like just getting other readers to venture out into that subgenre. And just be proud of what you're reading, man. Life's too short to feel shame about like what book you're reading.
Exactly.
Or what book shows up on your Twitter feed. I'm not there yet. Anything else you want to say? Add your thoughts, related or unrelated?
I have a question. Would 1-star reviews get you girls to read a book?
Ooh. So that's another thing we didn't talk about. We didn't really touch upon Goodreads. Reviews on Goodreads are an excellent way to make me want to read a book.
Yeah.
Whether it's a 1-star or a 5-star, because sometimes the things that the person hated about the book are things that I go, well, that's something I'd like.
Yeah.
You know, so just because it's a 1-star, it doesn't mean it's going to deter me from reading the book. Sometimes it does. I'm not going to lie. If someone is like absolutely shitting on the book and they're like, this is the worst thing I've ever read, it's badly written, blah, 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 then I'm like, well, okay, maybe not. But 5 stars reviews, or just like positive reviews in general, are also like likely to make me read a book, because I like it when people are excited about a book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like someone's excitement for something makes me want to also experience that excitement.
I agree with that. I will say, one of my favorite books, like if like you're someone that looks at like ratings, so like if you think a book has, like for example, say if 3.5 is a no-go for you because of you consider it a low rating. One of my favorite books are like I think a 3.5 something on there, and I honestly couldn't imagine not reading it because it's one of my favorite books. And the problems that people had with those books, like Marge said, are problems that I didn't like. It wasn't anything I had an issue with. It was actually something that made me want to read it more. And the book I'm talking about is A Husband's Regret by Natasha. Yeah, and so like people had problems with certain aspects of that story, but for me, I like read the shit out of that book. I could not put it down. It's one of my absolute favorites, and yeah, if ratings deter you, just I don't know. I don't know what to say to that, but like just form your own opinion. Look at reviews and, you know, just take them with a grain of salt.
If a book is getting very, very mixed reviews, sometimes what I feel it can say about the book is that the book is actually saying something.
Okay. Yeah.
And that something in particular is people are reacting to it. You know, and some people are reacting to it favorably because they're like, yeah, I identify with that and that really spoke to me and everything. And then some people are reacting to it negatively because they're like, nope, I don't agree with this. I hate this. I don't want to read about this, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But I kind of feel like that shouldn't deter you from reading the book just because it's getting mixed reviews, because there's a chance that you'll be the person that loved it and not the person that hated it. Yeah. And there's a chance that the book is doing something that's a little controversial or that pushes people in an uncomfortable place and saying something, and you might connect with it, you know?
You saying that right now, like it kind of puts into perspective when people say, oh, this book has mixed reviews. And I feel like it pushes people like to not give it a try. Yeah. And I feel like it does say a lot, like if it has mixed reviews, like the book is trying to say something, like it's a book maybe that you should want to try to read and get into and form your own opinion about it.
So hopefully this will help you if you've been wanting to find book racks. Happy reading in that case. You can find us online at Romancing the Monsters Podcast on Instagram, also the RTM Pod on Twitter. It's Romance the Monsters Pod on TikTok, which has been kind of not, you know,
as active, but I promise we'll be back with new videos.
Yeah, and you can also email us at romancingthemonsterspodcast@gmail.com, and you can find us at Romance and Monsters Podcast on YouTube. I ran through that. And if you want to find me specifically, I'm on both Twitter and Instagram at Foes and Lovers.
And you can find me on both Instagram and Twitter at ButThisBook.
And you can find me, Steph, on both Instagram and Twitter at Pros with Woes. And also, feel free to leave us a review, a like, or anything on any of the streaming services for the podcast. It will help us greatly and just like gives us some positive motivation.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.